Yeah, I'll come in with the energy. We're now live on YouTube. Woo! Morning
Yay!
to everyone who's watching on YouTube. And if you're not watching on YouTube, that disappoints me greatly.
The
Um,
hawk has landed.
Oh, here we go.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for college radio.
You're listening to 90.3 WMSC, Upper Montclair, New Jersey.
Good morning. Today is Tuesday, April 28th. In case anyone needed this information, this is the Morning Buzz. I'm your host, Filipe, and I'm here with my co-host, Dani, and our newscaster, Hallie. How are we this morning?
Good morning. I actually did not know what day it was. It's already the end of April.
Yeah,
So
March-
thanks for that.
March feels like it took 30 years, and then April came by and just did a quick drive-by. And
Like, hi, bye.
January, February, and March were actually just like 5 years.
Yeah, I feel
Yeah,
like
that's
I
what it
aged.
felt like.
We're back.
But yeah, we are back. We're here, of course, doing the morning buzz as we do every week in, responsibly and social distancing. But first, before we get into any of these interesting stories we have coming up, we have some stuff about New Zealand, Australia, a little bit about the, plans for New Jersey to reopen, maybe some stuff about Facebook and live streams, as well as the Thunderbirds and Blue Angels, and of course, some interesting news about farmers being able to find a place to put their excess produce. But first, we're going to do newscast because we got to get started with that.
Good morning. President Trump hinted on Monday that he knew the status of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un after many rumors of him being ill. The president said Americans would more than likely know how he is in the, quote, not too distant future, end quote. In other news, crowds were spotted on Ventura and Orange County beaches in California this past weekend. The governor of California, Gavin Newsom, was incredibly frustrated by the photos being taken, while the stay-at-home order was not fully lifted, saying, the quote, the virus does not take the weekends off, end quote. Here in New Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy has released a 6-step roadmap to start a slow process to reopen the state and hinted that there might be a shot for the state to open by Memorial Day. The New York election officials decided to remove Bernie Sanders from the ballot and furthermore cancel the state's Democratic primary. This sparked major outrage among the supporters in Democratic Party. The Socialist campaign issued a blistering response to the state Board of Elections decision, calling it a, quote, outrage and a blow to American democracy, end quote. Finally, it is 48 degrees and sunny here in Kingwood. How is it where you guys are?
Well, here in Newark right now, it's 48. We've got a hopefully a high of 64 and a low of 46. It's sunny, and it's going to be sunny for most of the day. What about you over there in Pennsylvania, Dani?
In Northeast PA, it's currently 43 degrees, high of 63, and a low of 43. So it's the lowest it's going to be right now. It's going to warm up a lot. I actually went outside a little bit. It's very nice outside today.
Yeah, the weather's been getting better, and that's one good thing. At least, it's not the dead of winter that we're dealing with right now.
Oh, yeah.
Because we'd be stuck at home pretty much the entire time unless you're willing to put on a full parka.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be able to go outside and go for walks like I need to these days.
Yeah.
Like, I would be dying inside my house.
Mm-hmm. So we mentioned in the newscast there was a mention about Governor Murphy and the plan we have right now to reopen in the coming months, and we can just go straight into talking about that because honestly that affects all of us, even you, Dani, since you do go to school here in New Jersey.
Yeah, and I'll be going to work in New Jersey soon too, so it does affect me.
So what Murphy talked about. Reaching benchmarks that we need to reach specifically in order to be able to open up, because right now we can't just from one day just start being locked down and then the next day open up right away. He said it's saying that the state won't be able to pay teachers, firefighters, police officers. The stay-at-home order is still in place until further notice, but there's a timeline that he's planning to measure in weeks, not months. He said, quote, there's a chance that we could get back in school, unquote, in terms of before June. So there is a possibility. I'm not 100% sure, but of course there was a full media briefing. He had broad metrics about how businesses can actually open up. Um, I think it's interesting that he's talking about already getting into school um, by before June, possibly,
Yeah.
when we have seen others, we've had seen situations where some schools have just outright even canceled in-person summer sessions. I know my sister, she goes to Boston University,
Hmm.
who canceled their in-person summer sessions and even have a contingency plan in place um, in the event that they can't do in-person fall semester. I know there was a CNN article circling for a while that the headline was saying how students won't come back until January, but it was misleading to the point where people were just, friends of my sister were reaching out and friends of the family asking like about how she felt about that. My sister's like, the president of BU told us that we're still planning to come back in fall and that January would be contingency. But
Yeah, a lot of schools haven't made up decisions on that. I know for me, as far as I'm concerned, like the day that classes start is still going to be like August 25th.
Mhm.
But they talked about there being like a second wave of the virus in the fall. So it's all kind of like you'll know eventually. It's not like
Mhm.
we're not going to know all of this information by now. It's just frustrating that we have to take it a little bit day by day, but it's just
Yeah.
what has to happen.
I mean, my state, like the state of Pennsylvania in general, completely canceled, like my governor completely canceled public schools like for the rest of the school year. Like at the beginning of it, he canceled public schools for the rest of the school year. So to to think that other schools might be opening by June, I mean, is it possible? Is what I'm wondering. Like, is it safe?
Yeah, I will say Murphy's plans, he did say, are contingent as well on the decisions that New York, Connecticut, and as well Pennsylvania makes, since in the tri-state area right here, and I think Massachusetts
Yeah.
as well. We are all working together in order to coordinate a better plan. I know on the West Coast you have states like California, Nevada, Washington. They're working together in order to coordinate a plan because at the end of the day, especially for us over here in the tri-state area, the amount of people that go in and out of that will travel through just even New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York, never
Yeah.
mind going up to Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts. It's a lot of people coming in and out of the state. So if one
Yeah.
of those states decides to open up earlier than the rest of the states, that's just going to cause chaos and it's going to cause problems
Mhm.
where, you work in New York and you're able to move around in New York more often, for example, and then you come to New Jersey and you're locked down. There needs to be something in place to make sense and to have some sort of routine so that when I go from, like, if I go from New Jersey to New York, I don't have to worry about being exposed in one state and the other, and then bringing it back to the state I was in beforehand.
Yeah, because there are a lot of people who literally work, like some people from New York work in Pennsylvania, some people from Pennsylvania might work in New York and New Jersey, or vice versa. So there's like a lot of people going in and out, and it's just like, how can they expect to be safe in one state and not safe in another? Like
Hmm.
when I go to, like, I work in New Jersey now, so when I go to work in New Jersey, I want to know that I'm able to be safe and then come home and not contract anything to like myself and my
Hmm.
family. So like everything I feel like should kind of go hand in hand with each other, especially within uh these states.
Hmm. I will say at the very least there is a plan. As much as I may think that maybe we should wait a little bit longer,
Hmm.
it is very clear that Murphy is in touch with officials that have information about
Hmm.
this. Scientists, doctors, and everything. He's not just how places like Georgia and South Carolina who are basically saying like, yeah, we're gonna start lifting the orders and everyone can go do stuff, or Florida where people were on beaches already. Um, or even California, who's like we mentioned, like Hallie mentioned, in the newscast, California, who is been pretty good with their stay-at-home order, had people in beaches when they shouldn't have been. Like,
Yeah.
it's, to say the least, it can be a little frustrating. So at least living here in New Jersey, it's a lot easier to feel safer because of the fact that we know we have our leader is actually sitting down and just like, all right, let's think about this. Let's take take steps working forward
Mhm.
and make sure that we're getting, these people are politicians and they're trying to listen to non-politicians and people that have more information on this topic more often. But since we're talking about New York and the tri-state area, we can go to this story about the Trump's plans for the commencement address in West Point. So West Point is in New York, of course. It is one of the bigger military academies here on the East Coast. On June 13th, he's planning to bring the students, over 1,000 students that would be there for the commencement. It is 50 miles north of New York City, which is one of the epicenters. We already had the Navy cancel their commencement, but the Air Force, on the other hand, still held theirs using social distancing. So I don't know. It seems odd to me, especially since the cadets haven't been at West Point since the cadets haven't been at West Point since March 6th, I believe, was their spring break. So now they're gonna have to come back during this pandemic, and they have already like plans in place about, oh, we're going to social distance during the commencement, and we're only going to have the cadets coming in, or we're going to have rigorous testing and monitoring. And I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. Just do it virtually. I had my friend, she graduated from the University of Pittsburgh. She did her graduation remotely. I don't understand why this needs to happen outside of Trump wanting to do the commencement address because he just really likes to have the attention on him.
I agree with that to an extent, but I also feel like if he wants to do it, then there is the possibility of postponing it, just like they did with, our graduation. So if he really wants to make the address, just postpone it. If you postpone it, then you can have it like you want. If you really can't do it virtually, then just do it at a later date, like they're doing with Montclair State's graduation and just holding it at a different time when everything's safe.
It always feels odd when people are, it's just so easy to push it back. Like I understand it's going to be a scheduling issue going forward, but at the end of the day, these people are still going to graduate. They're still going to get their diploma. They're still going to be able to go off to basic and, start their career in the Army. It's not like the commencement is a specific thing that they need. Like, if they don't go to commencement, it doesn't mean they can't go into basic training later on,
Yeah.
Gotta stop saying that. I feel like I'm like out of a valley girl going every 5 seconds. But
yeah, I feel that I've been doing the same thing. I've been trying to catch myself.
Yeah, you get like into a mental state, and it reminds me. My mom always makes fun of Portuguese soccer players because they very much talk like that. They very much they don't go to, a lot of them don't finish high school and stuff like that, so they don't exactly get like a full education. But I digress. That's not what we're talking about. It just seems odd to me. I understand wanting to do the commencement address, no matter who you are. Being chosen for a commencement address is a big deal. There it is again. Being chosen for commencement is a very big deal, but to really almost force it on people just seems unnecessary. You can just wait, just schedule it for another day.
It's so easy to just reschedule, postpone. It's also a lot safer. It's better for everyone else. If it doesn't matter how much you want to do it, what matters is keeping people safe. And if that means having to wait till July or August to do it, then that's when we have to wait. I don't want to wait that long for my graduation, but you have to do what you have to do.
Exactly.
It's not like cadets are going to sit there and be like, well, it didn't happen when it was supposed to, so I'm not going to show up now. It's like, no, these people are they're going to show up to their commencement. They're going to want to be there, especially for a school a military school as prestigious as West Point. Like that's a big thing outside of just being their commencement. It's a commencement at West Point. You got into one of the top military academies in the United States. You're going to want to go to commencement and do the whole 9 yards.
They're not going to miss that. Like they're not going to miss that.
And it sucks because there's a good chance that their families are not going to be able to attend. So even just the fact that you're already forcing it to happen is not terrible, but not the best decision in my opinion. But the fact of the matter is, you have families that won't be able to see their son or their daughter graduate from
Yeah.
West Point. Like, there's 100% people that either it's their first chance to go into the military and this is their path to success, or people
Mhm.
that are from military families and military backgrounds that have, like, sons, sons and daughters, fathers, grandfathers, and so on, that have been in the military for years. You're not going to be able to see your kid continue the family tradition. And I feel like, to me, that I wouldn't say it's a slap in the face, but
It's just not fun. Like, especially if it like runs in the family, you want to be there to be proud, to have pride, to have that family pride of seeing your child graduating in something that you did or are still doing. So it's just it's sad. I think sad is the word we might have been looking for. Like, it's just
Yeah,
sad that that might not be able to happen.
it sucks. There's so much that's been taken away from us because of this pandemic. And it's as much as I would rather be able to do things like seeing friends, going to concerts, leaving the house, having breakfast or grabbing lunch with people. I'm not gonna go out of my way to do those things just to put myself and others at risk.
Yeah.
It sucks, and every day I think about the fact that right now, like, on Saturday I didn't have anything new. I could have easily been with friends had things not happened, but it is what it is. That's the reality we're dealing with, and that's what we have to do going forward in order to make sure when we come out of this pandemic, we try to do our best to minimize the amount of people that die. And
Mhm.
like, as grim as it sounds, we're trying to minimize the amount of people that are going to pass away. There's already a lot of people that have, but we can argue about this all we want. At the end of the
Yeah,
day,
honestly.
it's the lives that matter, and at least to me, that's what's important right now.
On the
Um,
lighter side, in New Jersey, apparently the hospitalizations, at least where around where I'm from, those have declined.
Mhm.
yes,
So
that has been a
that's a
very good
lighter
sign.
thing.
Same
Yeah.
thing over here. Like, the lines are starting to flatline a little bit. Things are starting to get a bit better. I
Mhm.
mean, it's still not perfect, like not where we should be, but it's getting
It's
there.
yeah, and I think we can probably, even not just here, but in different places across the world, we're starting to see social distancing, really do a very good job at what it's supposed to do. And we can even go somewhere like down in the Shire, New Zealand. We have news from the BBC where Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern was saying that cases have been popping up in single figures for several days. They had only one this Sunday. Um, she did say that the virus was currently eliminated, which is odd to say, but other officials in the country are warning against complacency. Um, and New Zealand really had some of the toughest social restrictions. But starting Tuesday, so yesterday, because this article was from yesterday, non-essential businesses, healthcare, some non-essential businesses, healthcare, and education is going to start back up. They're still going to have people having to remain home and not go forward. Uh, I'm just thinking of the fact that I'm looking at the chat and it's like, those hobbits know how to deal with things. Like, thank you, Annabella. I do want to visit once this is all over. Obviously, I do want to visit New Zealand and see the Shire set that they have there.
I would love to.
Like, it's New Zealand itself is beautiful. I think
Mhm.
Annabella's playing something from Lord of the Rings, but New Zealand's beautiful as it is. And they've been doing a pretty solid job of handling things.
Yeah.
They had some pretty heavy social restrictions in place, and even closer by in the area, Australia had an app. You mentioned this to me,
I did.
Danny, last night, because
Yeah,
Philip
I did.
DeFranco was talking about it. It is an app called COVID Safe. It uses a Bluetooth signal to exchange what's called a quote unquote digital handshake when you come within 1.5 meters or 4.9 feet for us Americans. It keeps track of basically who you walk by and who you run into. It tells you if you've been near someone for more than 15 minutes, and then from there, it'll tell you, like, oh, if this person is has been tested positive or hasn't been tested positive. In Australia, they have close to 6,700 cases and 80 deaths from the virus itself, from data from Johns Hopkins University.
Mhm.
But it's an app out of Singapore. Went live this past Sunday, and I think to be able to track this and to be able to know, like, if you came into contact with someone that may have been positive, because we are seeing a lot of information about people who are asymptotic, and you might not know that they have coronavirus.
Yeah.
To be able to have basically an app that will say, like, oh, this person you were around for like more than 15 minutes, you may have been talking to them, you may have been standing next to them, and they were coronavirus positive. You can use that information to keep yourself safe. I don't think that might be a thing this country would be okay with.
Probably not, because like that's personal information that we're not going to want to give away, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like with the app, when I was like looking into it more, apparently you have to give permission to be able to use your personal information.
Yeah, it's
And yeah.
interesting too, because South Korea, I don't think it was an app, but they were using a similar system of tracking that was run by the government, which this country definitely wouldn't be okay with.
Oh no.
But I feel that if you have the right people in power or you're using the right organizations, they should be able to make you feel secure enough that having personal information about you
Mhm.
going forward can, be used the right way.
Yeah, for sure.
We do have a history of this country with, you know, with Edward Snowden leaking that information about the NSA and how they're basically tracking our calls and everything. I
Mhm.
mean, I almost want to play devil's advocate and say, like, our government already keeps track of what we're doing as it is. Like, I feel like it
Yeah.
really wouldn't even be that hard for them to implement what they're already using to watch us, to keep track of who does what and keep track of people who have the virus. But again, that's a whole moral and ethical issue that people would
That's a
definitely have a
whole other
problem with.
thing we could literally have like a full show conversation on.
Yeah, like,
So,
but I think people seem to be pretty okay with it. People seem to be in Australia and even in New Zealand to be down with the program, and if it helps people stay safe, I mean, it's working there.
yeah, I mean, personally, I would have no problem doing that because I would rather know that I'm safe and that I'm keeping other people safe. And like, if I ended up coming in contact with the virus, I know that I did, and then I can take care of it. Like, just like disinfect things, I can make sure I'm sanitizing even more regularly. And like, there's a lot more precautions you can take when you know that you came in contact with someone with the virus.
hmm
So
It,
I personally, I would love to have it in the United States.
it to me, it begs the question what information people already know. I mean, companies already have tracking us now. I mean, we
Mhm.
know Apple already usually has a history of having a good amount of information on us, Google as well. I mean, Google keeps track of what we do all the time, and we agree to it. It's an important
Yeah.
thing. We need to realize that these companies don't have our information because they're stealing it and selling it illegally. The terms of service, we agree to it. There was apparently some time ago when the internet was first starting off to be what we know now, where companies had the choice of having people pay like a couple dollars a month or even every few months to keep the internet free for us to use without having collecting our information, or having the opportunity for us to use the internet completely free and then they sell our information. I it's interesting to think about the kind of information companies have on us, and to seeing how it's used and seeing the possibility of it being used for something good like this. But we know how this country is and how certain perceptions of freedoms are. I mean, we see um, all these protests right now against you know the
Mhm.
occupation, not the occupation, but being told to stay home. We talked about it last Thursday on the Buzz, about how there's a lot of suspect information, a lot of suspect sources where this comes from. It's hard sometimes because there's two different sides to all these arguments. There's some people that think that we should obey the government consistently, but then when it affects them personally, they lash out. So it really makes you think, like, what really would happen if we were to have some sort of app like this, at least something that people would opt into, as opposed to the government basically telling us, download this and you have to use it no matter what. Instead, hey, we have this app available for you. You give the information you legally want to give us. It is your choice. You don't have to use it. And that's very clearly what's going on in Australia. And there's enough people that are starting to sign up that it is showing some sort of effect. So I don't know, what do you two think in terms of the United States rolling out a voluntary system like that, as opposed to, just telling people what to do?
I mean, I personally think it probably would be useful, but with the way our society is, it depends on who's going to use it. Like, it's going to come down to whoever's willing to give information and whoever thinks that it's like the government watching them, they can't put any information, they'll know everything.
Mm-hmm.
Which, when you were talking about Google, like, there's so many websites, you're like sign in through Google. So you're giving that third party website all of your information already. So when you sign in through that, who knows who has all this information, even if it's just your email address, but then your email address gives you your birth date, your age, your everything. So it's really dependent, I think, on the person.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people are really going to go for it. It depends on who actually wants to give out that information because,
Yeah.
I mean, the government already has like everything on us. They know where we live, they know what we do, they know what we act like. Like, guarantee there's people listening to us right now. Like, let's be
Yeah.
honest. Like,
Hi.
hi,
Aside from the
whoever's-
people who are
yeah.
live on Facebook, on YouTube watching us, aside from them, because we know they're
Yeah.
watching us.
Well, yeah, we know they're watching us, but like, let's just be honest for a moment. There's definitely some government people listening in and watching and making sure we're not saying anything bad.
Although, do you think they're WMSC fans though?
Maybe.
They watch
Could
us
be.
enough. They watch us enough that it not only becomes a job, but they're slow. They're
taking
putting on their.
notes.
They're taking notes. They're like, oh, I love this DJ. I think they're doing a great job. They're you see one of them wearing a WMSC hat over their FBI hat. But I think, just to wrap up the conversation, it's interesting to me that people aren't willing to give the government information.
Yeah.
But they're okay when it's third parties like Google and Amazon.
Yeah.
Because we know how much your Amazon Alexa and your Google Echo and all those different voice assistants know about us, to the point where we have had Amazon basically tell us, like, yeah, we log all the information. We don't, and we keep it. We don't use it like that, or whatever you want to believe from them. It's interesting that it's the government they don't want listening in on that, but they're fine with a company that can use our information a lot more freely and a lot more, sometimes in a more sketchy way. But that's just my opinion, and I'm not going to act like I have some hot take to say. I just think it's interesting to see the way people's minds think in different situations.
Yeah.
But in some more local news, we had President Trump recently, as recently as last week, talk about having the Blue Angels and Thunderbirds fly over different parts of the country to salute first responders and essential workers, like police and fire, and of course doctors and medical services. But right now, there's going to be a formation of the Blue Angels and the Thunderbirds. So the Blue Angels are from the Navy, Thunderbirds are from the Air Force, flying here in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. They're going to be flying over specifically New York City, Newark, where I'm from. So I'm probably going to maybe, oh no, it was on Tuesday. I missed it. No, today is Tuesday. God, I don't know what day it is.
Nobody knows what day
Wow.
it is anymore, honestly.
But New York City, we got Newark, we got Trenton. They're going to be flying over Tuesday. I believe there should be a map of the flyover at some point online. We're gonna try to see today if maybe one of us can catch it, because I know they're going to be flying. So let's see, when are they going to hit Newark? Okay, so they're going to fly over Newark around 12 p.m. So that's about in
2.5.
2.5 hours. So I'm probably going to see outside if I can catch it. Maybe use someone else's phone as opposed to mine because my camera is just completely wrecked. So I'm going to see if I can catch it. Post it up to social media. Tag WMSC. See something cool. It's like, oh, we talked about this on the buzz. Look, it's happening right now. But it's cool. I mean, I at first wasn't happy with this because it just kind of felt like, that's money or time they could spend on other things. But there's a good chance that I sat down and think about it more. It's like these people already have that money put towards stuff, and like they're going to use the money anyway. So I'm just complaining to complain. We have a quote here from Commander Brian Kesslering. He's the commanding officer and flight leader from the U.S. Navy Blue Angels, and he said, quote, "We are incredibly honored to have the opportunity to salute those working on the front line of the COVID-19 response, and we are in awe of your strength and resilience," end quote. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. It's definitely different and something that I guess doesn't hurt people. There is a do we want to watch? I think we can probably pull up a video from a flyover from a few years ago during Fleet Week from Kate Taylor. It was caught Kate on the YouTube channel Kate Taylor TV1. I don't know if whoever's seen it before or anything, but it's definitely something that is usually interesting. We could play the video now to kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like. Yeah, like it's kind of amazing to see it because these are people who they are in the military. Blue Angels are, as we said, from the Navy, and the Thunderbirds are from the Air Force. It's it's amazing in the sense of just how close they are and how cool it is, but also just if you think about what these members of these teams have to train, like just training to be a pilot for one of these jets, like these are like incredibly engineered pieces of technology that are flying at unbelievable speeds, and if you make the wrong mistake at the wrong time, like you're kind of you're up the creek without a paddle type
Yeah,
situations.
pretty
Like
much.
like just flying them in general is a great feat of just being able to show like I know how to fly a jet, but they're doing these close flybys, they're doing these different maneuvers and everything, the amount of coordination. So 12 p.m. today, it's gonna start flying over around here in Newark, and then the show the flyover will end at 12:40. They're gonna start at George Washington Bridge specifically and go into New Jersey over around Newark and Trenton, and then they're gonna pull from there. They're going to go into New York. So yeah,
I wish I was able to watch that, but I'm all the way here in Pennsylvania. I probably won't be able to see it,
well,
unfortunately.
if you are you able to see anything from how close are you to Philly?
Philly's about 2.5 hours away from me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they fly close enough.
If they fly close enough, then I might be able to catch them, maybe going into Jersey, but we'll see.
But of course, I don't think we should. It should be, should be a given. But you are encouraged to watch from your yard or porch and don't gather in groups because we are still social distancing.
And stay 6 feet apart.
6 feet apart. Look, if you even need to put out rulers and everything to make sure people know what they're doing, 6 feet apart. But that should be something cool to watch, and we'll see what happens as more and more different flyovers are going to be scheduled throughout the rest of this quarantine. Since we were actually talking about, we mentioned Facebook and other companies, we have this story about their Facebook Live platform, which we have used many times before to broadcast the morning buzz. Right now we're
Mhm.
using YouTube because we did have some technical issues last week, but nonetheless, it's a good platform. But Facebook announced they're going to let artists charge fans to access the live streams to the platform. This announcement from Facebook that says, to support creators and small businesses, we plan to add the ability for pages to charge for access to events with live videos on Facebook, anything from online performances to classes to professional conferences. They're changing a lot of stuff with what's happening now in the coronavirus. They're allowing multiple contributions to come through the live stream itself, as opposed to how we do. We'll do a Zoom session and we'll stream that Zoom session on Facebook Live. They can have multiple people on Facebook Live together at once. We don't have any information yet about the actual monetization structure, and we don't have any idea about when this will roll out. But they also did announce saying that nonprofits can have the ability to have like a donation button to the live video. So kind of like how which Twitch streams always have donation buttons and stuff like that you can do when they're raising monies or just doing taking donations in general. We had the conversation before the show started, Danny, where
Yeah.
we had differing opinions for different reasons.
Mhm.
I personally found it odd that right now during this pandemic, when a lot of people aren't working, that they would throw this monetization feature in, which is not unusual. A lot of platforms are already have those kind of features. But you brought up a good counterpoint about the artists themselves.
Yeah, so my thing is the artists themselves might actually need to make some money, which is the only reason why they might have to charge that money from the fans, because if someone has the money to pay, then they should give them the money that they need.
Yeah.
Maybe not should, but artists like
Consider it.
consider it. Yeah, I'm like losing my mind, don't know like the right words to say right now.
It's been a weird morning.
Yeah.
It's been a weird morning.
It
I've
really
been
has been.
like, if you ask anyone, like just even the people behind the scenes,
Yeah.
Ryan, Amanda, and Annabella, they were talking about just how weird their morning has been. Like, again,
Yeah.
some of us didn't even know what day it was, and
No.
the only reason I knew it was February. Wow, April 28th is because
Okay,
Wow.
so you don't know it's April 28th. Is what I'm hearing.
I don't. I put it in the script, and
Oh
I'm
my
looking down here at the
gosh.
bottom corner. Like you can see how it's just been taking it's been taking such a toll sometimes the days.
Yeah.
I watch BuzzFeed Unsolved, and they always do a Q&A for every episode the Wednesday after it comes out, and the two main guys, Shane Madej and Ryan Bergara, were absolutely out of their minds throughout the entire thing because they were getting cabin fever, and this is kind of
Yeah.
what we're dealing with too. But Danny, you were saying you before I cut you off.
Yeah, no, you're good. Yeah. I also woke up with a massive headache this morning, so I'm still getting over that and trying to get my head on straight and what I want to say. But yeah, so artists that might be charging money on Facebook to like have streams, they might need that money. They might need to make something because they're not going on tours, they're not going on they're not putting out albums, they're not making music, they're not really doing much of anything. So they need that money. They need to be able to have that money. And if the fans have the money to give them, then obviously like let them do it. Maybe not force them to
Mhm.
pay, but have like donations, let them be able to give the money should they need it.
I think that's where we ended up having different thoughts, because when I thought about this, my first reaction was thinking about major artists in terms like your Taylor Swifts, your Beyoncés, your
Yeah.
Nicki Minaj of the world, where you thought of more smaller independent artists that
Yeah.
may not have. So I feel like it's very easy to look at it both ways, and I think it is still strange when it came out, but it also makes sense. I mean, Hallie, as an independent artist, what do
Oh
you
my
think
gosh, I
about
knew
this?
this was
Up
coming.
and coming. As an
So,
independent up and coming
I
artist.
actually, so I've been posting videos on Facebook for the last like month, and I don't like I wouldn't want to ask for money from people that are enjoying it because they have nothing. Like there are a lot of people who are home not getting paid. Some people don't qualify for unemployment, and even the people who do qualify for unemployment, sometimes there's issues with like the contact and they don't get their
Oh yeah,
payment.
I'm going through that
So
right now.
I would feel very wrong monetizing my videos because I don't make music to make money. I don't do it. I also don't really go to a studio. I kind of have a makeshift studio,
Gotta respect the artistry.
which happens to be a benefit
Yeah.
because I can sit here and record music. But the thing is, I would never want to ask like my family, my biggest support system, to pay to watch me sing,
Mhm.
like sing anything. Like that's not fair to me.
It's interesting because I know I have a friend who also composes music, and he puts out work on SoundCloud, and he puts out work on Bandcamp where you can purchase, and he never you can pay whatever you want on Bandcamp and SoundCloud and
Yeah.
different websites where you can purchase music. So he always says like, oh, you can grab it, and he tells a lot of me and the rest of our friend groups like, you don't have to pay for it. In fact, you can probably pay as little as $1, and I'll send you the files and everything. And
Yeah.
obviously this was before the pandemic, and it's interesting to see the dynamic in that situation, because you as an artist and my friend will always be very much like against us paying, because you'll feel, A, you're not making music to make
Yeah.
money, and B, you were already your support system, and we already are supporting you so much that you don't want to basically milk us for money.
Because I even make, not that it's a lot, but you make money from like streams on Spotify and streams on Apple Music. It's like, yeah, I'm not making a ton, but I'm also 19. I'm not like fully dependent on doing this. So why should I make someone pay if it's like I'm still a student in school?
Mhm.
I'm doing this. Like school is my first priority. I should not be making everyone else pay to
Mhm.
listen to me sing. I just think it's absurd at the moment,
But at the
Yeah.
same time,
but it makes
what were you
sense.
saying, Danny?
Maybe like not force them to pay, but have like a donation, like a link to make a donation, so that way if they want to pay and like help you out, help you make some money, that if you might not have a lot, I know some
Yeah.
people who might actually be willing to do that if they're fans of you, if they have the money to do that, then they would.
Yeah.
And you also have to think of it this way: people, when friends and family and other people in your support system want to give you that support, they don't see it as you asking them for money. They'll see it as you, them supporting your work and stuff like that. Like
Yeah.
it's very difficult, because it's a difficult situation to be in, because you don't want to feel like you're promoting it, you're pushing on other people.
Yeah.
You have to a certain degree, and I think, and very much so, Facebook, these live streams give an outlet to those people to maybe reach out a little bit more, which
Oh.
once I'm done later today, I'm going to put my Apple Music on loop to play Hallie's music to make sure she gets some extra monetization.
The way that I see it,
Oh my gosh, do not.
the way that I
But
see
you
it
can
is it's
totally listen to
basically
it.
like buying an album.
Mhm.
Like monetization is like, because you can't really go out and buy albums right now. I see it as in you're basically buying the music like you would buy one of the CDs, one of the albums, or on iTunes. I see it like that. I don't see it as just like them asking for money. I see
Yeah.
it as they can't really sell these things right now. They can't get the money this way, because I know like most artists say they don't do it for the money, because usually they don't. However, that is the only source of income for
Smaller
most.
Yeah.
artists,
Yeah.
because
So
you
they
can
need
have
that money.
because you can have people like, obviously, the Foo Fighters, Katy Perry, big names like that. They make
Mhm.
money off touring, they make money off merchandise, they make money off sponsorships. So they have a pretty good cushion of money going forward that
Exactly.
can take
Yeah.
care of. If you look at a band like, I don't know, like, I'm trying to think of bands that are smaller in comparison, like a band that I like a lot, Big D and the Kids Stable, out of the ska punk scene in Boston, Massachusetts.
Mhm.
They self-publish. They do everything on their own. They put out their
Mhm.
own CDs. They put out their own merch. They don't work with a record label. They basically made their own label, and there's a lot of other bands like that who will 100% benefit. And I think just having this discussion made me think differently about the idea of Facebook. I just always have the concern that it will be different people will
yeah.
use it for different ways. And I feel
Yeah.
like as long as Facebook can sit down and make a system that isn't taken advantage of or do their best to do it, because no matter what you
Yeah.
do, someone will always take advantage of things. As long as they try their best to make it as fair and not manipulative as possible,
Yeah.
it can definitely work.
That's where I think like when you talked about having like a donation link would make more sense. But I also think that's just the way I am. I'm like I don't want to make people pay for anything.
Mhm.
But if they want to, I'm not gonna like be like no.
But yeah.
Yeah,
Take it
like
away.
people shouldn't be forced like to pay for streams in general, but if you want to, put up a donation link, hey, if you want to donate some money, if you have the money and you want to donate it to me, it goes strictly to my music. It doesn't go in
Yeah.
my pocket. It goes strictly to my music to help me make music and, all that. Then I would find that to be perfectly okay.
Yeah,
Well,
and
that's like my
it's
current. So like I have like a certain amount that I've made in the last year. It's not a lot, but I have not touched it because I'm like if I'm not putting it towards something that is either for like another album or another single or like more musical instruments, then I'm not taking it out. I was like
Mhm.
I don't want it, especially if I'm not going to use it efficiently for what I'm doing
Mhm.
or like
yeah,
whatever, however you would want to put that. But
yeah.
I get that.
So we have this kind of on continuing on some more positive stories. We have this story from Good News Network, um, where supermarkets buying food from struggling farmers, so they can keep feeding families. And the specific supermarket chain is Publix. It's an initiative where they'll buy fresh produce and milk to help farmers impacted by the coronavirus. Um, and not only are they helping the farmers by buying them, but they're donating whatever they buy directly to the Feeding America member food banks in the operating area. So the currently right now the numbers are they're looking at 150,000 pounds of produce and 43,500 gallons of milk donated to Feed America food banks during the first 7 days and is expected to run for several weeks. It'll support specifically Florida produce farmers, Southeastern dairy farmers, and just families who use Feeding America for food, because we are seeing stories about the difficulties that um, we have. We have stories about the difficulties that people are dealing with. We mentioned before the struggles that right now are going on with unemployment, as well as the struggles going on with just food banks. Food banks are really at the brink right now because so many people who already use them were able to get a little bit of help in general to not always have to go to food banks. But with so many people out of a job, with so many people not home, with even grocery stores sometimes running out of specific food items, there's a lot of plants, meat processing plants that are slowly closing down because of risks of infection among the workers, that you could feasibly see a shortage of meat in the next few months or so if this keeps going. To have a program by this restaurant, this not restaurant, this supermarket chain that is actively buying food and donating it and basically paying out of its own pocket is good, because you see stories about just all across the world, basically potatoes in piles being dumped in a landfill, and just dairy farmers just basically opening up the faucets of all the milk they're storing and just pouring it out down the drain because of the way that our economic system works, where everything has a price and you can't just give it away. And just grocery stores with their food waste needs to be thrown away because of certain FDA regulations. This is a very positive way to look at things and positive way to handle things, where they're taking something that is basically going to be thrown in the trash because they can't sell it, and these farmers can't just give it away because they still have mouths to feed. I'm not blaming these farmers and these dairy farmers for the situation, because they're in a system that they have to sell in order to survive. That's how it is. Like they can't just, you can't go to, old McDonald down the street and be like, hey, can I have some free milk and some free potatoes? And he's going to tell you no, because I need to feed my family. Um, there needs to be a system, and this is a good step in terms of a company that has the kind of money to pay for this kind of stuff and then donate it. And I feel like this is a good way to handle a surplus in a pretty awful situation we're in right now.
I mean, yeah. Um, it is good to like help people out like that, and um, I did not mean to say again. My
It's
bad.
contagious. I'm
It
sorry.
is. No, I keep saying I keep saying and like and I'm not trying to. I'm sorry.
It's become such a central part of a lot of different people's speech patterns, but in a profession like broadcasting, whether it's radio, television, sports broadcasting, there is a certain kind of vocabulary and certain speech pattern that is expected. Like you don't see, there it is again. You don't see Sade Betterainois on the news and
No.
7 throwing ums and stuff around. You don't see Good Morning America doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because like is like a way of thinking. Like you're trying to think and like automatically
It's a placeholder.
like just like comes out of your mouth when you don't want it to.
And we can there's a different conversation to have over what's considered professional or not. That's a thing about just
Yeah.
there's a lot of science and social science that goes into it, but the reality is we're working in radio. We can't be it's encouraged we don't use those kind of words. So today has been an interesting
Yeah.
job in figuring out how long it's going to take during this quarantine for us to just completely fall apart in terms of our broadcasting skills, because there
Yeah.
are some days where it's a struggle. I'll tell you that. It's a
Today
struggle.
is definitely a struggle
We're
for
not
me.
gonna fall apart. It's gonna be all good.
We're going to finish the
Like-
broadcast, and then after we fall apart.
And then after,
Yeah.
so you just
Yeah.
have to keep yourself together for like an hour, I would say.
Yeah.
Do
You
you
know?
even have a watch?
Nope. I haven't
So
used
No,
it.
guys,
it's half past wrist.
I
so
had-
here's what the Oxford English Dictionary says about dates back to the 1400s. Okay, and like the short pause is an and the long pause is an It's the way that your brain catches up with your tongue. But the best thing you can do is when you feel that coming is to take a pause, like a 1 second pause, and then you train in regular speech. That's why we're in college radio, to learn these things.
And of
That makes
course,
Thank
sense.
you, Annabella.
our
I
wonderful
think-
general manager, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, Annabella's been in this business for
Thank
years
you,
now.
Annabella.
I won't say how many, because A, I don't want to date her in terms of how, make her feel old, and B, I don't know how many years she's been in radio because I don't keep track of that kind of stuff. But
18.
Annabella, it's 18.
Thank you, Annabella.
Annabella has been fantastic with not just training everyone here at the station in
Giving us a lot of tips and
giving a lot of tips, helping us become the best radio people we can be, as well as just, in general, good mentoring and helping us out, but it's really just going back to the story, helping people out, I guess, in theme, Annabella helping
Yeah.
us. But the Publix, I feel like it would be great if more grocery stores can get in on this. All these grocery stores, aside from maybe a small neighborhood chain, we have so many companies that make so much money, and to hopefully see more and more wealthy CEOs and wealthy people who would be willing to sit down and say, look, we need to maybe take a step up and maybe take a cut on the money we spend, maybe cut back on some other things that we spend money on that may not be necessary. We don't need to have that third or fourth car. We don't need to be flying out to Milan whenever we can, which is obviously a stereotype of how rich people are, but you get the picture. If people are willing to take a step back and see what they can do to help others, it'd be great. But we'll see where that goes. But just to wrap up today, because we got about 6 minutes left.
Wow, this went by fast.
Yesterday, we showed you the video of Brad Pitt as Dr. Fauci from SNL. As we know, Saturday Night Live, while they are currently not at 30 Rock filming because social distancing, they've still been doing stuff from home. They have a lot of recorded stuff that's already been done beforehand, but they're doing stuff live streaming, doing stuff through different ways of broadcasting live. The appearance yesterday, Dr. Fauci was on Telemundo's Un Nuevo Dia discussing the pandemic, and they asked him about what he thought of his portrayal by Brad Pitt. Fauci said, quote, I think he did great. I mean, I'm a great fan of Brad Pitt, and that's the reason why people ask me who I'd like to play me. I mentioned Brad Pitt because he's one of my favorite actors. I think he did a great job, unquote. And I think we can pull up a quick video about Fauci and what he was saying. This is right here on the screen.
Lo interpretara y justamente eso pasó este sábado. ¿Cómo cree que lo hizo?
Creo que fue muy bueno. Soy un gran admirador de Brad Pitt y cuando la gente me dice si quisiera que él me interpretara es porque es mi actor favorito. Hizo un excelente trabajo, pero él ha demostrado que es un individuo con mucha clase. Al final, él se quita el cabello y nos agradeció a mí y a todos los miembros del personal de salud. No solo es un gran actor, sino que es una persona de mucha clase.
I gotta say, I love hearing broadcasters in different languages and see how broadcasting sounds in different countries. And my grandparents always watch Telemundo, another Spanish channel, so I'm very used to that. But we have just this really cool thing where we have SNL trying to put out content for us. Like we ourselves are trying to put out content to our audiences and our listeners and now our viewers, since we are live on YouTube and Facebook. But we have Brad Pitt basically closed out the SNL impersonation saying, thanking not just Fauci, but everyone working on the front lines. And it sounds like, just like Fauci is a fan of Brad Pitt, it really sounds like Brad Pitt is a fan of Fauci and what he's doing right now, because Fauci is doing such a good job in terms of doing his job as part of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. It's difficult. You see how difficult it is, to work in these current situation, and B, to deal with some of the tension and pushing and pulling that happens in the White House with the administration and some of the different ways that parts of the administration is thinking. So to see Fauci coming in every day, doing his best to give the information we need, to make the decisions that should be right, and even if he can't make the decision himself, to do his job and try his best to get his input and get a word in. It's good to see. It's good to see him doing that. It's good to see him day in and day out keep doing his job. And even if he whether he's getting frustrated personally or feeling hopeless, he at least doesn't show it. And I'm pretty happy to see someone in a higher power who is sitting there and doing the best that he can without, makes me feel a little bit hopeful.
I agree.
But we have tomorrow, of course, we're reaching the top of the hour right now here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. Tune into tomorrow's Morning Buzz. We have George asking WMSC Sports Director to join to discuss how the sports broadcasting team is dealing with the world of no sports. And then Thursday, not well at all.
Not well at all.
You have no idea.
I can tell you that.
You have no idea. There are some times where anything in terms of sports, I'll sit there and just consume it. But
my dad is going insane.
I know. And then on Thursday, Tara and myself, along with Amanda, our newscaster, we're going to talk about E.T. finally coming home as opposed to phoning home.
Ooh.
So, look out for that. Look out for that. We're going to have some interesting stories of talking about why, as Tom DeLonge put it, aliens exist.
Well, I know that I will definitely be tuning in on those days.
Oh, it's gonna be fun. You have no idea. We talked about it before on the Buzz last year. I won't. So some people might still be familiar with the story, but we'll go into it. And then George and our sports director should have a lot to say about the lack of sports right now. But it is now getting to the top of the hour here at 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair. This has been the Morning Buzz. Thank you to everyone watching. I want to thank my co-host Dani, our newscaster Hallie. Of course, we're also gonna thank our general manager Annabella and everything she's been doing, as well as our head chief engineer Adam Goldberg and Ryan Trick, Jeremy Wall, and Amanda Marina for their work. And we're gonna leave you with a quick little video about just teasing forward. And I hope you don't just phone home, but you also stay home and make sure to keep everyone else around you safe.